Climate change is the big story everybody's talking about, and we are all concerned about it. The whole point of this collection is to show some of the most beautiful places on Earth that are going to be affected if we don't address climate change and the way we are ruining our planet. Jill and I went to Antarctica, and at that point I was already thinking and had given a lot of thought to how the planet is being ruined. And when we got there and we saw the pristine world of Antarctica, I thought, I've just got to paint this, and I had to find a way of doing it in a dramatic fashion. Each one is an amalgam of everything that I sense when I'm there, and I take all of that and I put it together, and it coalesces into something like an image of the place. This painting is called Warani because the indigenous people in that part of the Amazon are the Warani tribe, and they've learned how to live in unison with all the wildlife there. And it's an ecosystem that is so deeply interconnected. The Amazon is the lungs of the earth, and unfortunately we're abusing it. And what's going to come out of this in the long run is too scary to even contemplate. I'm an African, and I've been to Kilimanjaro. I've painted the elephants as big tuskers because there are very, very few big tuskers left. They've been hunted out. And of course, this is a very, very endangered place. This is known as the Hanging Glacier. It's in Patagonia. This was a particularly well-known one because it always, in more recent times, it looked like it's hanging on the side of the cliff faces. But in fact, what it is it's just receding. That's the Colorado River, and what I'm trying to tell people over here is that the Colorado River, which incidentally doesn't get to the ocean anymore. The great river that used to exit into the Pacific Ocean, it doesn't do that anymore. And they're taking water away from nature. This is Norway, the Norwegian fjords. I'm afraid we're going to have to learn to be more respectful when we visit these places so that we don't ruin these gorgeous places. Yeah, well, this is what we know as the Ganges. The river's about as dirty as any river can get. And the Indian government is very, very concerned about cleaning it up. It'll need to be cleaned up. But what I wanted to show was that how beautiful it can be when there are fewer people. And also I wanted to put in a spiritual holy man. This is the Cape Kelp Forest, which I was inspired to do when I saw the movie My Octopus Teacher. I thought this is something I really would love to paint. We were fortunate enough, my wife and myself, to meet Pippa Ulrich, who said she would take me down so that I could see it. It's a very, very tricky painting to paint this because you have to try and paint it in such a way that the depth is diluted by the density of the water. People know it as the Li River, but in Chinese, it's Lijiang. You can see there the tourist boats going down, and people go there in their thousands now. This is the island of Sarawak, which is in the Far East. The forests are being cleared all over Southeast Asia for growing palm oil. And as long as we have a craving for palm oil, I'm afraid they're pretty much endangered forever. This is Bora Bora, Society Islands. They're building so many resorts that the coral is starting to show signs of wear and tear. There's still reef like this, but it's diminishing all the time. Whereas what I wanted to do is I wanted to paint it in a pristine way. And I made it a free diver, no tanks or anything like that, because when you free dive like that, you can't stay underwater too long, and so you can't do too much damage. I wanted to show Venice because it's threatened through climate change, rising seas, and it gets flooded far more often than it ever used to be. And I wanted to show the multitude of boats that are continually going up and down the canals, bringing thousands of tourists. This, of course, is the Aurora Borealis, which can be seen mainly in the polar regions. The real danger I'm highlighting in this is that the pack ice is melting. The polar bears have very few great lengths of ice to walk on now, and they're all hanging onto floating bits of ice. And it's tragic because I think they are seriously, seriously threatened. Scientists are deeply concerned about the effect of climate change on these monuments and these antiquities that are so important to the human development. It's been affected by increased temperatures, rising bedrock water, and wind erosion. And the Sphinx has also been affected by sewage that is seeping up through the base. In this painting here, I wanted to show the wide open, rough sea. The open seas are, in fact, people think that they're not as endangered, but they are very, very endangered. They've all been fished out, and sea levels are rising, so the seas are getting rougher, the weather's getting rougher, and the albatross sadly has to go further and further afield now to find food because the seas have been fished out. This is one of my favorite places, the Pacific Northwest of America. These incredible groves of redwood forests and sequoias are just magnificent. The whole area is now endangered and under threat from changing biodiversity, forest fires, bull poaching, and diminishing sea fog. What I wanted to show was the glorious smoothness of the planet. So, and when you look at it and you say, this thin blue line, that thin blue line going all the way around is what sustains all life. That's the atmosphere. And if we endanger this thin layer, humanity will disappear.